All right, what's up, everybody? Good morning. Happy Thursday. Hope everybody's doing awesome. All right. There's been a lot of good stuff since last time I was on last week. It's been a big week on PT on Ice. We had Alexis on Monday, gave that very heartfelt discussion on early parent loss. On Tuesday, we had Eric talking about proprioception versus balance and kind of teasing that out. And then on Wednesday, we had Christina talking about frailty in older adults and how to know whether somebody's frail and why that matters, right? So how to incorporate that literature. And then before that, we had Mitch Babcock on Friday, gave an awesome talk regarding coaching and speed and the Metcon and how to understand what that is in CrossFit and why it's relevant. So what a big week. So it's been a lot of fun to watch those guys. You know, it's funny. I look forward to the show every day. It comes on live and I pop it open. I can't wait to learn. So been fun learning from those guys the past week. So today I want to shift gears a bit and just chat about something that's probably more of a mindset than anything. It's probably not even that relevant to physical therapy specifically, but I think it's an important topic because I think it really parallels satisfaction in what you're doing and in your work, in your process. And every time Jerry Durham and I, so many of you will be aware that Jerry Durham and I run a course called the Patient Experience, right? So our next one is coming up here in Victoria, up in British Columbia in Canada, the first weekend of December, I believe it is. And every time Jerry and I build up for that class, we have a good deal of people that reach out and say, well, guys, I would love to go, but I don't run my own practice, right? Like I don't own my own clinic. And it always drives Jerry and I nuts. And every iteration of this course, we have the same conversation because, yes, you do, right? Like that just isn't the right mindset, right? Everybody is running their own practice, or everybody should be running their own practice, right? Now, you might be doing that inside of a large organization, right? Like you might own a clinic. But that doesn't mean you're not running your practice, right? And that's what I really want to talk about today, because I think if you can adopt that mindset that you are running your own practice inside of a larger group, right? I think that your overall satisfaction, and I would argue your overall outcomes, are dramatically better. Right, so let's chat about this. And that really comes down to the title of, right, nobody has a job for you, right? What they have is an opportunity. Right, and so let's grab a case example. So let's think about a classic case, right? PT clinic, right? Maybe a clinic group. Maybe they've got 6 to 8 PTs, right? And they're really busy, right? And maybe they added on some new referral sources or some new services recently, and they're just cranking, right? And so they're looking to add a new PT because they're a bit overwhelmed, right? Everyone's working a little more than they want to. The hours are getting late. And they're really looking for someone else to kind of come in and decompress that a little bit, right? And so that's you, right? So let's say that's you, just an example, right? And it doesn't matter if you're a new PT or if you're a PT who is working somewhere else, or if you're not a PT but you're moving into a similar circumstance, right? And so they bring somebody on, right? And somebody would say that, well, that person had a job opening. And I would disagree. I would say that person had an audition, right? Or that person had an opportunity. Because when you show up, you're going to be seeing primarily 3 different kinds of patients, right? Now, I'm well aware there's exceptions to this, but you're going to be basically seeing 3 different kinds of patients. Number 1, you're going to be seeing new evals that aren't coming from an established source, right? So they're not coming from an established physician who really has, physician or other health group or other clinic group or other group of individuals in the community that you work with. So whatever this referral is coming from, it's coming from somebody or some group who doesn't already have a really solid relationship with your clinic, or more specifically, a particular therapist at your clinic. So it's just an eval that's showing up that got referred to your shop, who really doesn't have any preference on who they see. There aren't a lot of those, but they're gold, right? Because if you're showing up and you're a new PT, right, and now you have a patient who really doesn't have any preference who they see, and they're more than happy to see you, right? They're not aware that you're new there, that's great. Right, but there isn't an overwhelming amount, because usually most of our referral sources have been nurtured over time, and that nurturing has been through relationship building. And so most people who are getting referred by a really good friend who is saying, hey, you got to go see the PT I saw, or they're getting referred by a physician who has been using a couple of PTs at the group and has really developed a lot of trust in them. So most of the referrals that come in have some sort of relationship behind them. Very rarely do they come with a blank slate, but they do come, right? And when they do, oftentimes the new PT is going to get that referral. And that's a golden opportunity for you to now reform the relationship, not only with that patient, but from whatever group they came from, right? Maybe that was a triathlon group that meets every month and they've seen some overall marketing from your clinic that you guys love treating those kind of patients. Whatever it is, now you have the opportunity to capitalize with not only that individual patient, but with whatever source they came from that doesn't have a real deep relationship with your clinic group yet. So those are gold. They're not very high in number, but they're gold, right? The more common patients you're going to see, right, are patients that wanted to see somebody else at the clinic group, right, but they weren't available, or they weren't going to be available for several weeks. And so the front office kind of gave them this option of, well, you can wait, 3 weeks to see David, as you often do, or hey, we got a new guy, Jeff. And if you want to get in tomorrow, Jeff could see it because Jeff's just got on board. We're building up a schedule, and the front office is going to try to build you up. Hey, Jeff is great. He sees a lot of this issue that you're dealing with. But ultimately, that patient really wanted to see David, right? They've seen David historically. They've done great with David. They know David's wife and kids. I'm saying David because this is the circumstance I walked into in Bozeman. It's the circumstance most of us walk into, right, when we're moving into a new position, right? So oftentimes that patient wants to see the person they saw previously, but they're going to settle and see you because it's more convenient and because they want to get in soon, right? In the third group of people you're going to see are patients who have been around at the clinic for a long time, and the therapist admits that they need a fresh set of eyes. Right? That patient's not moving forward, or no one's really sure what to do with that patient, and they want to get the patient better, but what they've been currently doing in the current paradigm doesn't seem to be getting the job done, and they're just sort of stuck, right? And so that's a third group of patients that you're going to see. So your schedule is going to be comprised of sort of those three groups, right? A few new evals that are a blank slate, a whole bunch of people who probably wanted to see somebody else simply because they have historically, and then individuals who are kind of hanging around the clinic that are getting passed over to you. My point in saying all of that is those are all relatively challenging patients, right? And the reason they're challenging is because they're not really primed with a super positive expectation that you're going to be the person to get the job done. Right? Because for one thing, you haven't seen them before, right? So if you've already solved somebody's problems previously and now they're coming back for something different, they're expecting for you to solve their problem because you solved it last time. So their expectation is really high, right? If someone is coming to you with a direct referral from a friend group or from a business group or from a physician, and that referral is, listen, every time I send someone to this guy, to this gal, they do better. That person's coming in with a primed expectation. And we've talked over and over again on how expectation correlates to outcome, right? So if you're following Bishop and Bolosky and George and Cleland, we're aware of this research that when people believe they're going to get better, they tend to get better, right? And so when people aren't coming to you primed with that expectation, you have to earn that. And that's a little bit of a grind. Right? It's a little bit of a grind, but it's a grind that matters, right? Because if you can get their expectation up, you can get their outcome up, right? And so the point is the patients that you see when you come in and you're seeing overflow and you're sort of serving that purpose of, man, we need someone because we're too busy. Those patients just tend to be tough. Not only are they tough, but that's not a pipeline that can serve you forever. Right? Because the only way that those different patients are going to come to you is if everybody else is totally overwhelmed and can't get people in and needs to kind of shuttle patients down to you. Well, that's not really the position that you want to be in for a long period of time, right? Because you really ultimately want to be eating what you kill. I mean, you want to be going out there and getting your own people because those patients are challenging to treat. So my point is that the goal is to convert those challenging patients, right, into your ongoing patients, right? The goal is to take that opportunity or that audition, right, and really turn those into your own practice inside of that practice, right? And by doing that, there's going to be a lot of positive benefits. So if you look at it that way, right? If you show up at that job and you're thinking, look, I've got some opportunities here because I've got some people that can't be seen by the other providers, so I'm going to have a crack at them, right? Or I've got some people who aren't getting better with the current methodology we're using at the clinic, so I've got a crack at them. But also looking at it as I've got a crack at them, but I need to take those opportunities and convert those people, right? So that they want to see me more than they want to see the other people they used to see. Now, in one way, it sounds like you're stealing patients. I promise you, the group you're working with is not going to see it that way. Because remember, they're overwhelmed. It's why they're bringing you on board. And if you can flip those patients, right? If you can steal patients from the owner, that's going to be a happy owner, right? Because the owner usually has plenty of patients, right? Or the veteran PT who's been around for 12 years. They have an excess of patients. And if you can get people who want to be on your schedule more than they want to be on their schedule, this is a win-win across the board. The patient's going to have better access to you because you have a little more time on your hands, right? The veteran PT was overwhelmed, right? They're thrilled that you were able to get someone sort of away from their schedule and onto yours. And so everyone gets better service. Everyone gets a better outcome. It's a very, very favorable thing. So that becomes the goal of looking at these opportunities that were available, right? And turning those into you building your own practice, into you building when those people come back, they say, hey, I want to see Jeff. Right? I saw him. He was the new guy last year. I came in, did a really good job with me. I think I'd like to see him again. Right? And that's going to do a number of things. It's going to do three primary things. Number one, you are going to get better outcomes. If you build your own, if you embrace that idea and you build your own practice inside of the larger existing practice, you are going to get better outcomes because people's expectations are going to be higher. They are going to be told we're supposed to come see you. They are going to be saying, I saw that guy last time and it went great, right? So they are coming in with a better outcome, right? And there is no better job in the world than a musculoskeletal therapist who gets great outcomes, right? A PT, a DC, a massage therapist, a trainer, someone who's working in the musculoskeletal conservative arena who gets great outcomes. But there's no worse job in the world than, and I've seen this too many times, there's no worse job in the world than a PT or a conservative musculoskeletal specialist, right, who gets terrible outcomes. I mean, guys, really embrace that, right? Think about that day and be honest with yourself because it happens to all of us. Think about that day where nothing was going right. Like none of your patients were getting better. And first of all, admit that we all have those days, right? Where patient after patient, it's like, Ron, how you doing, man? How have things been going since last time? I don't know, Jeff. I still haven't been able to golf. I haven't been able to walk a whole lot further. The hip's killing me. It's like, oh man, I'm sorry to hear that. Next patient, Joanne, how are you? Jeff, sleep is no better. I'm still waking up every hour. Tell me that day's not a grind, right? Tell me that day's not a grind. Tell me you don't walk out of that day like somebody beat you over the head with a 2x4. You're exhausted. Right? You go home, you can't dial in, you're absent at home, your head's a mess, you're laying in bed thinking, man, should I really be doing this job? Is this really for me? Am I cut out for this? It's exhausting when you're not getting great outcomes, right? And we know that outcomes correlate to expectation. And on the other hand, guys, how great is this job when you have a day where you can't miss? Where everybody's getting better, right? Patient after patient. Hey, Ron, how are you doing? Jeff, I'm doing so much better, man. I was able to golf with my wife last night. We played 9 holes. I had minimal symptoms. I'm doing great. Thank you so much. Ron, you bet, man. Right? Next patient, Cindy, how's it going? Jeff, I slept all night last night. I never woke up once. I feel so much more with it today. This is awesome. Thank you. Cindy, you bet. When you leave the clinic and all of your patients that day were doing great, how do you feel? You feel energized. You feel engaged. You feel like you found your purpose, right? Our job satisfaction correlates so closely to the outcomes that we get with our patients. And the outcomes that we get with our patients correlate so closely to expectation. And the expectation the patient has correlates so closely with how they arrived into your care, right? And the way they arrive into your care really dictates that you begin running this like it's your clinic. right? Like it's your practice, right? And you look at those opportunities to see patients who are kind of just winding up at you. You see those opportunities as ways to twist that patient so that next time they come in, they only want to see you. And if you can pull that off, if you can use those opportunities we talked about earlier in the show, if you can use those opportunities, right, as ways to create lifelong patients, people are going to come to you with a higher expectation going forward. Your outcomes are going to get better. Your job satisfaction gets better. And I want to see everybody's job satisfaction get better because the reality is what we're doing is taxing. Right? The reason that the outcome is so correlated to the satisfaction of your career is that what we're doing is so emotional and taxing. I mean, people are coming to us. They're in pain. They're in a tough spot. They're not able to do what they want to do, right? And they're paying you good money. And if you can't bump that needle forward, this is going to be a rough road. And one of the arguments to what would allow you to bump that needle forward would be the expectation they come in with, right? And so that's really what we're talking about correlating here. So one huge thing is that if you look at it this way and you look at building your own practice inside of the greater umbrella, you're going to wind up getting better outcomes because the expectations are better, right? And that's going to improve your overall job satisfaction, right? It also makes it a lot more fun when you start developing your own following and you don't have to spend so much time marketing. Right? So when you start really getting out there and you take these opportunities and you turn these people into lifelong followers of your clinic, inside of the greater umbrella. Right now, you don't have to market as much. You don't have to run around with flyers to the doctor's office and try to get people because you already have your own stream of folks coming in. And I don't think PTs by nature are really in love with marketing. Right? I don't think it's something that we naturally gravitate towards. Now, don't get me wrong, we have to do it, but I don't think it's a real natural love for us. And so it's one more thing that now when you start developing your own clientele, right, you don't have to do as much as that because you have more and more people who want to see you. The third thing is the more that demand you develop, the more you can start seeing patients that you really have a deep interest in specializing in the area they're having a problem. You can start seeing patients who you just gel with because you have a real deep interest in the problem they have. Or there are a certain subgroup of individuals, age and gender, etc., that you just thrive with. Right? And the more demand you create for your own practice inside of that greater umbrella, the more you can start manipulating your patient load because you have demand to do it. Right? So now all of a sudden you can start going out there and getting the patients that you really enjoy seeing because you really believe you're being of great service for them. That's not to say everyone doesn't deserve your absolute best, but it does mean there's probably areas that we specialize, that we have a really keen interest. And the more of our patients that are right down that pipeline, oftentimes the better service we can provide for them. So by looking at it again as you building your own practice inside of a greater umbrella, right, creates three huge shifts. Number one, it increases their patient expectation, which increases your outcome, which increases your job satisfaction. That's gigantic, right? Number two, you don't have to spend as much time marketing because you don't have a whole lot of gaps in your schedule to fill, right? So now you've got your own pipeline all the time. And number three, it's a pipeline of people that you really enjoy seeing because you're deeply interested in the problem they're having. It's the area you want to specialize in, whether that's sports or women's health or chronic pain, right? You have your area that just really gets your juices flowing. And the more people you see that increase your energy because you love that stuff, right? Again, the more jacked you are, the more you're digging your job, the more you're digging your job, the more people are digging seeing you, right? Because who doesn't want to see someone who loves what they do? Right? So all of those things start to happen, right? And so I really want you guys to embrace that regardless of whether you open your own shop or whether you choose to be a PT or a conservative musculoskeletal provider inside of a bigger group, the bottom line is if you can grow the market share, right? And if you can turn patients who wanted to see somebody else earlier into people who want to see you, right? If you can create your own practice inside of the bigger group, it's going to improve so many things in your life. And so when people come to Jerry and I and say, well, I don't own my practice. So going to your seminar to talk about, the patient experience and to improve, our clinic doesn't make sense for me. I just really want to, that causes me some concern. And it really makes me want to bring up this topic of, I hope you're not looking at it like that. I hope you're looking at it as, when I take a job, I'm not taking a job to see other people's stuff. I'm taking a job to start there, but then to really carve out my own niche, right? And to utilize the opportunities that are on the table when I show up to create my own practice and my own following and my own specialization inside of that existing paradigm. And if I can do that, I'm going to like my job more. I'm going to be able to see people who really fit into my specialized area of interest, right? I'm going to be able to have a better job and to service folks better, because I'm making that switch, because I'm not just taking what's given to me. I'm going out there and I'm capitalizing and creating my own stream, right? So just some food for thought. This question comes up so often, every time Jerry and I lead into this course. And so I think it's a good one to discuss, and hopefully we have some good dialogue on Facebook about it. But either way, thanks for being here this morning. I had a blast as always. A lot of stuff coming up. This weekend we've got Mitch and Ryan doing the fitness athlete course at Recharge. So they're going to be in Mount Airy, Maryland, moving the barbell around. We have Justin Dunaway. He's got a sold out crew down in Charlotte. Charlotte. So they'll be rocking that. The next chance to catch those two courses, if you want to be a part of the fitness athlete course, the next chance to catch that is going to be in Greensboro, North Carolina, next month. And as far as Dunaway's thrust course, he'll have that in Boston and then Las Vegas back-to-back weekends. So check that out. Awesome, guys. Have a great Thursday. If you're seeing patients, make it happen. If you're seeing patients, make sure that you're thinking about how you can grow your own practice while you're seeing them. All right, guys. Cheers.